I wish every parent could go home tonight to their teenagers and say, kids, be free, be who you want to be and do what you want to do.
Even though we all have different opinions and different views on things, we can still see that people are human beings underneath it all.
Just a quick one before we get back to the episode. I genuinely appreciate every single one of you who watches Showtime. The regulars, the occasional viewers, and those of you who might be tuning in for the very first time today. It really does mean the world. But here's the thing. Only about 7% of people who are watching are actually subscribing to my YouTube channel. So if you enjoy what we're doing here, please hit that subscribe button. Not just for the algorithm or for the channel, but because it really does help us keep making more of the stuff that you love. Thanks again for watching. Now back to Showtime. This is Showtime, a podcast about the people behind the curtain and the stories that shape them. I'm Andrew G, and each week I sit down with creatives, leaders and risk takers from the theatre world and beyond. We talk about what they do, why they do it, and what it really takes to keep showing up. It has been more than 2 decades since Melbourne last saw Hair, the groundbreaking rock musical that defined a generation. Now it's back, and at the Athenaeum Theatre, led by Cooper and Maverick Newman, we are going to talk about passion, peace, rebellion, and what this bold new production reveals about freedom and identity in 2025 and why that still matters. Welcome to Showtime, Alex and Maverick.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Now, you guys are not at the Athenaeum Theatre in Melbourne right now, are you?
We are.
Well, actually, we are.
You are?
We're in
we're
a
upstairs.
back room somewhere.
Yeah,
And you're rehearsing at the minute?
we are.
We're teching.
Well, yeah, we're in Tech Week.
So for those that don't know, tech is that thing you do when you pull the whole thing apart before you put it back together again, yeah?
Correct. You have
Pretty
to add all the technical elements, the lights, the costumes, the sound, the band.
Yeah, we did Sits Probe last night. So
Very exciting, yeah.
first sing through the band, which was fantastic.
Sitzprobe, I believe, being the German word that means seated rehearsal.
Yeah.
Just a fun fact
Very
for those
similar
playing at
to
home.
The Wundelprobe, which is where you walk through the show with the band and you wundle and rehearse with the band.
Fantastic, man.
But you
That's
don't.
good.
You don't.
And you haven't done one of those. What is it? Vindelprobe? I've never heard of that.
Wundelprobe. I think I've done about one. In my
I
time
don't
when
think
was at drama school.
I don't think we'll get to do one.
No, it's no
But,
time.
no.
It's no budget.
Moving on. Love that. But moving on. You're doing hair. How much time do you guys spend in the mirror thinking this is definitely my rock god look?
That is probably my a fair bit, actually. And I tried not to think about it too much in rehearsals. It's only probably in this week that I started to sort of get the salt spray out and get some curls happening. Yeah.
My hair's it's a bit wet now, so it kind of looks quite normal. But when it dries out, it's just like a buffy. I just don't have the rock thing going for me, and I don't need to in this show because I'm just doing all the funny cameo.
Yeah.
I play women in this show
Primarily. Yeah. It's very funny. It's very good.
Thanks.
As you're going through the process, as you're leading up to opening night, do you think you're still discovering the character and you're going to feed off the audience, or is it pretty embedded by this stage?
I think for me, absolutely. Yeah. I'll probably, and on other shows as well, I continue to sort of discover things and things get deeper and different choices get made depending on, I guess, it doesn't really depend on what the audience is doing. It's probably more for me.
I totally disagree with that in that I think this show is so about the audience. As most shows, every show that you do in the theatre, the audience is that final piece. But I think particularly with this show, which given its origin and its history, I think most people that come and see this show have a connection to it in some sort. And it is a community in of itself, the sort of audience and the tribe. We play the tribe on the stage. So I feel like the show really will begin with an audience, but then you have you have the most sort of dramatic, through line where I have direct moments with the audience multiple times. Yeah. So
I can see you trying to walk it back. Like I'm having an existential crisis about the performance, but that's fine. No, I'm joking. That's good. No, it is very different when it's comedy. I think you really base it off the audience, and then there's certain things that I think you can only sort of internalize. And then if you are getting something from the audience, obviously you might change something. But yeah.
Alex, Claude's often wrestling between identity and duty. When's the last time you had to decide head over heart?
To be quite honest, I feel like it was interesting getting to know this character over the rehearsal period. I kind of feel like I've been living in that for like the last 4 years of my life, in all honesty. So it wasn't, it's that question of, I mean, sort of the song before the end of Act 1, where do I go? That question is something I feel like I'm constantly asking myself. It wasn't really a difficult thing to sort of relate to at all for me.
And Maverick, you write, you perform, and you compose. How have those skills and experience helped you in this show?
It helps me in every show I do, I think, because going back to the audience, I'm so concerned, maybe sometimes overly concerned, with the communication that is happening with an audience. And so much of what I try to do as an actor is be the conduit between the writer or the writers, the writing and the audience. And there's many things in this show that sort of beckon interpretation. And that's been a real joy of going, how is something either problematic, as, you know, we wrestle with when we revive pieces, or going to be received differently than it would have 20 years ago, and how do I deliver that for a current audience that also, you know, maybe were there in the 60s and the 70s, so have a strong attachment to the themes and the ideas and the concepts within the show. And so I think as a writer, that's really helpful because it's a different kind of perspective that I often bring to text.
And to both of you, do you think there's a particular lyric in the show that hits differently in 2025?
Oh, there's lots.
There's heaps, actually, and stuff we've had to we've had to discuss as a cast. We've had to, you know, really sit down and delve into.
I sing a song, I sing a duet with wonderful Grant Young. And the text is actually from Hamlet. And the song is "What a Piece of Work is Man." And I think that the lyric throughout that whole song, that Shakespearean text, and the irony of singing about how wonderful, you know, humankind's ability for reason and rationale is, the irony being that the song happens after sort of devastation and the capacity for evil and irrationality and pettiness and violence and corruption. So I find that, you know, the things that speak most to now, I think so often are things that are eternal and speak to every time. And there's a lot of that in this show.
Yeah, nothing really changes. I think it's just maybe the avenue that it's presented changes. But this show, you could do it the same way and it's still looking at issues that haven't left mankind or the world, to be quite honest.
The show Hair was pretty shocking back in the 60s. What do you think it is that'll shock an audience today?
You know what? Sorry I'm talking
about, but
go. It still feels shocking.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, everyone talks about the nudity, and everyone that I've spoken to that's like, oh my God, you're in hair and you have to get naked. And of course that feels that there's a shock to that, but that's not even the most shocking thing in this show. I think it's the attitude of the show that is unrelenting and unapologetic, and I think that answers that's the show. Well, but definitely the nude, like it's about counterculture. So even today it is countering the culture of today, and that is always going to be shocking and, warrant censorship and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. Because when you do look at it and you think, oh, it was shocking in its day. Is it really going to be that shocking now? And as we've gone through the process, it's like, this is still incredibly shocking. It just, it hasn't really changed.
It's also the explicit conversations about race, gender, sexuality, politics, war. I think it's the rawness with which the show speaks to those issues that is,
it's so direct.
Yeah.
And those conversations are so direct, even now that obviously more and more of those conversations are happening around all of those things. Even today, the directness of the show is so blunt and so sort of blatant that
in a way that's somewhat refreshing.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because, of course, it's been over 50 years since people first saw Hair. So do you think we've actually evolved, or do you think we've just found fancier ways to pretend everything's okay?
I think sorry.
Well, it's a sad subject in some ways, because I don't think so. I think the conversations have moved and changed in the way that we have them, but I think there's an undercurrent that is still, prevalent all the time with some of these things. And as we were just saying, sometimes the blatant and the blunt conversation starters and the rawness of everything in this show is really refreshing to just go, okay, let's forget everything. These are the issues. Here it is. We're just going to present them to you. Have a think. This is what we think about it. This is what the show is kind of trying to portray.
I think the show happened at a point of radical change. 60s was huge. You had the pill, you had civil rights movement, things that catastrophically changed the way that we live in the West. And I think the musical happened at the beginning of that. And I think we're still living in that world. So it's speaking to problems and issues that we still have and still will have for a while. And so, I don't know if it's about, looking at it as if the show happened and did change happen or not. I think it's about the sort of continual work of talking about these things, and it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Things have changed and they haven't changed. And we just got to keep talking about them. I
think one thing that definitely has changed since the 60s is that people seem to want to consume more information at a greater speed. And I think people have shorter attention spans than they used to. How do you get audiences to feel what Hair's about?
I disagree that we have shorter attention spans, because people binge watch 10 hours of I think obviously with our phones we move at a quicker pace, and so in some sense I actually think we crave deep engagement with things, and Hair is definitely, there's a spirit about it that is very appealing and enticing, that I think it's actually really easy to care about this show, and I think people will love what this show represents in that way.
Well, it is that thing of even if people are binging, they could be on their phones and kind of not fully engaged. And maybe that's the good thing about theatre, is that you can't really have your phone out. I'm sure maybe people do. But there's also that thing of when you're watching something, especially modern, sort of binge-worthy TV shows, it's fast-paced. There's things happening all the time. And it really speaks to this sort of idea of sort of slow storytelling, slow kind of slow reveals of things. You need to stay engaged to be able to understand what's happening. And the payoff of that, I think, is far more than just watching something that's bang, 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 kind of bang, bang, bang. The payoff of that is really good. And I think if people can stay engaged and really kind of listen to the work, and I think it's not going to be very hard to do, especially with the show. I think the payoff is going to be huge, especially for the audience.
What's one thing that you've learned about yourselves during the rehearsal process of Hair?
I've got my answer.
You go.
I think it's been more in the working together on this show because the show is so controversial. It has required conversations that are difficult and important and tricky, and we don't exercise that a lot with our phones today, and we have echo chambers and all that sort of stuff. And I think the show it's changed me in that way of encouraging open communication with difficult topics, obviously with care and compassion, but the show, as much as it's kind of about violence and war and, you know, being anti-authoritarian and anti-sort of government and anti-history, really, like the show, its biggest message is like, let the sunshine in and peace and love. And I think sort of on a philosophical level, it's helped me see the current moment with more, I don't know, nuance or breadth or something.
And these challenging conversations that you're referring to, are these with cast and creatives, or is this the conversations that you're going to have with the audience in character, or a bit of both?
Well,
it's both.
It'll be both.
You know,
but it's also, how do we talk about these issues? Who's the voice behind these issues?
Yeah.
You know, because there's a lot of stuff in the show that there's freedom in how you portray, you know, things to do with Native American land sovereignty, slavery in America, you know, things like that, gender and sexuality, all those conversations that have been really important, that are not easy, simple conversations.
And for us as performers, I think it's not like we forgot, I think, early in the rehearsal process, but in order to convey it to the audience, we as a cast need to fundamentally understand those things first as well.
Mm-hmm.
And coming into a room where there's so many different people, I know there was in one of the songs, there's a line, harmony and understanding. And I think that was really, especially early in the process, that was like a guiding message for us, I think, in a lot of ways, because you'd be hearing things and then you go, God, there's so much pressure. We're running out of time. We've got to do rehearsals. But the conversation is so important to have. And the show couldn't be what it is without first discussing it as a tribe and then moving forward from that.
What do you hope audiences learn about themselves watching Hair?
I have a line as one of my characters, and she's talking to the parents. She's an older broad who's a part of the Christian Paranoid Association, and she says, I wish every parent could go home tonight to their teenagers and say, kids, be free, be who you want to be, and do what you want to do. And I think there's something in that we always need a reminder of, like, you know, live and let live. You know, there's no wrong. There's no, be who you want to be. Yeah.
I think mine's of a similar vein. I think there's this sort of, obviously Claude's grappling with this sort of question of whether to go to Vietnam, and he doesn't know what he's going to do. He's asking all these people for, you know, advice, and Berger kind of comes out with this amazing line of going, you will go. And it's not coming from a place of, he understands who Claude is. He understands what the questions he's asking. And there's this beautiful thing where Claude is still part of the tribe, even if he does decide to go. So to me, that speaks to, even though we all have different opinions and different views on things, we can still see that people are human beings underneath it all. And even if someone makes a decision or does something or something you don't necessarily align with, you can still hold love for those people, and it's not going to, you can talk to them about it and try and influence them and show them your point of view. But at the end of the day, they're their own person, and it's just, as long as they have an understanding of the same thing, which I think is what the tribe is all about, everyone can kind of stay connected and love each other regardless of those things.
I'm chatting with Alex Cooper and Maverick Newman about Hair the Musical, which opens at Melbourne's Athenaeum Theatre on the 25th of October for a limited season until about the 22nd of November. For more info and to book tickets, go to hairthemusical.com.au. Alex, Maverick, thank you so much for taking some time out of tech to have a chat, and chookers for the season.
Thanks,
Thank you so much.